Well, get ready to take notes because if we can't all learn something from my special guest tonight, there's something wrong with us. Janine Allis has dabbled in almost everything in life, but it was making juice in her kitchen at home that catapulted this former model and super yacht waitress into a $66 million retail and property empire. From a sole store in Adelaide 21 years ago, Boost Juice now has 580 franchises in 13 countries. Janine is another one of those self-proclaimed accidental entrepreneurs. But of course, the more of those I have on the show, the more we find out how much they've all made their own luck. I caught up with Janine Allis earlier this week. Janine Allis, welcome to the virtual couch. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, Chris. Lovely to be here in this virtual couch.
Yes, even though it's your couch. Do you still claim it's been by accident? Come on.
Look, it's definitely not by accident. You work too hard and you sacrifice too much for it to actually be by accident. But I think that, the word entrepreneur, in actual fact, my view on entrepreneurs is often entrepreneurs make terrible business people, because entrepreneurs, the classic one, will go, oh, I'm into it, I like the product, and then there's a bright light. Okay, I'm now on to the next thing. So it's really I think it's the entrepreneur that creates the concept, but it's the real core business person that actually gets it to the end.
If I list your pre-Boost jobs, it sounds as if young Janine was searching for her thing for a long time. You started in an ad agency at 17. There was modelling, managing a gym, a nanny in France, promotions in Portugal, a camp counsellor in the United States, a stewardess on a super yacht, David Bowie's no less, a manager for a cinema chain, film house publicist, touring agent for comedians. Is there any more? Have I left any out?
Oh, probably. I think I picked strawberries when I was 14. And I worked for Target. I was a checkout chick for Target. So if you want to add those two in, I think that's about right.
Were you looking for your thing in that period?
Look, back then, people got a job and stayed in the job for 18 years. I think back then I was going, there's more. I was brought up in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne and, brought up with 50s housewives to say that my job in life was to be support my husband. And I went to a tech school. Now, I don't know if you know what a tech school is. You probably do. Not many. If people who are watching this haven't heard of it, it's a tech school's designed for trades. So it was designed for followers, not leaders. So I was pretty much brought up that way. And I definitely wasn't that little girl that would sell lemonade on the street. But I did want an adventure, and hence, some of those jobs I've done have been travelling around the world just trying to eat.
How amazing was Bowie? As amazing as we thought he ever was?
Completely. He was a gorgeous guy. He came from nothing, and in actual fact, when I met him, he was 42 at the time when I met him, and he had only, I think, 8 years earlier gone was completely broke, and he'd been ripped off by his manager. But he had a gorgeous guy. But I think what it taught me living and, socialising with and working with, these superstars, that's Mick Jagger, and which was his best mate, and Bowie and all of his other, well-known friends, was that people are people, and it really taught me in business that despite the fact that I probably wasn't the most educated, but I was in the room like anyone else for an outcome. And it really helped me in business not to feel intimidated by anyone, because, by the time I'd started work, I'd met princes, queens, rock stars, movie stars, and I found out they were just normal people. They were like us, just normal.
That's interesting. We know about the juice bar revolution in the United States. You thought this could work in Australia, and of course it did. The rest is history. But you're a franchise Hall of Famer. You hear so many terrible franchisee stories. For those watching now who want to buy into something, think it will work for them, what do you need to look out for? I'm asking you to give advice to those that you sell your franchise to.
Look, I think the key thing is you've got to be passionate about the concept. There's no way that if you don't like cars, don't go into an automotive franchise. And the key thing the advice I'd give to anyone who's looking at going into franchising is speak to the other franchisees in the network, because they will tell you. We have got a great network, and and we actually check ourselves. So every year we get a survey and we get a 360 to see what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong. And, I think we communicate really effectively. But at the end of the day, when you buy a franchise, you're buying your own business. And so it's important that people allowed to run their own business, but equally under the rules of why the brand is so successful. So, equally, you've got to do your research. Don't just jump into it thinking that, it looks like a pretty ad. Make sure you speak to the other franchisees, make sure you do your due diligence and speak to lawyers and accountants and all those people, because it's really important, because it's easier to get divorced than it is to get out of any sort of partnership or contract.
Yeah, that's very true. That's about 4 chunks of advice there we should all listen to very carefully. How do you and your husband survive? You're not suggesting that other entrepreneurs or business people should go into business with their partners, their husbands, their wives, are you?
No, not if you want to keep married. Look, there's no question that, my husband and I actually work really well together. And the reason we work really well together is that we are yin and yang. We are very, very different. He has great strengths, which I appreciate. He's a marketing genius. He's just he's just great in his space. I'm good in my space. And I think that, and what we learned over the years was that you've got to stay in your own lane, or we would kill each other. We would, the many times we went home and went, right, let's talk about that meeting. But respectfully, we never argued in front of anyone else, and I think everyone knew we had pretty clear roles. So I think, I really dig my husband. We've been married 25 years, but equally, I think we're at that stage where we can turn around and go, you're really annoying me.
Yes, be honest and it won't cause too much pain. All right, there's television. Well, you are a veteran of television now. We saw you on Survivor. You were the perfume scorpion. Here's a clip of you on Survivor.
There is a professional sporting alliance.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Totally.
If we go to tribal council, this will actually dictate the rest of the game. If they go, then they'll go pick. We've got to find a crack in the sports alliance if we want to survive in this game.
To be honest, you came close to winning. It must have been a terrible slog.
Oh, it was. I loved it and hated it equally. I got a great friend out of it, which is Pierre Miranda, who we speak at least every 2 days. But it really did. It was very primal. As you saw from the clip, I was skinny. I was just bones by the end of it.
Yeah.
But you know what? At 55, I wanted to test myself. I wanted to go, and what am I made of? And can I live in the dirt? But I actually really love the simplicity of it, and I love the having to fend for myself.
It was rougher than simplicity, and it definitely wasn't glamping.
It wasn't glamping, no. But it was simple. You had to cook your own food. You had to cook your own fire. You'd have to, the only thing is that when you went to the challenges, you went, oh, today's the day I'm going to die. Because some of the challenges were like, oh my God, really? You want us to do what? But, equally,
you can have it.
I loved it.
Well done.
No. I recommend anyone to do it once.
All right. You were a shark on Shark Tank, wading through good and bad startups. Have any of your invested projects struck gold?
Look, not necessarily. Look, the reality with businesses, they don't actually, very few just take off within a year. It is genuinely normally a hard slog. And all of them are doing well without going nuts. But there's none of them that have probably, shot the lights out. But equally, they're all good businesses.
That's great. You were also one of Lord Sugar's advisors in Celebrity Apprentice. We'll have a quick look at you and Lord Sugar together.
I'm not just a makeup artist, and it will give me so many opportunities.
It's also about charity.
Absolutely.
I was here to change my charity's life, not mine.
But that's not the thing.
It is. Well, it is for me.
Do you think you just put your foot in it? The way you're worried about yourself rather than your charity?
Yeah.
Janine Allis, what did you learn from a billionaire, former politician, he's everything, Lord Sugar?
But he's a good bloke. He is, even though he's gruff and he has all those, one-liners, he is a really lovely man. And
great.
Really, it was a pleasure to actually hang out with him. And we're going in again to do it again. And I'm looking forward to catch up with him. I think he's in town. I think he's just got out of quarantine. So I'm really looking forward to working with him again.
How good would that be? Now, in the past 12 months, I've been watching all the gossip real estate magazines and the newspapers. You've sold about, as I calculated, $37 million in property in Queensland and primarily in Victoria, Melbourne. You've been building and flipping properties as much as you've been juicing, I get the feeling.
You're doing your research, haven't you, Chris? Yeah. No, look, at the end of the day, actually, it wasn't necessarily we were flipping properties. I actually bought my house in Toorak thinking I was going to be there for the next 20 years. But, you know, COVID's done many things to many people. And one of the things that it did for me was realising that I wanted to have a different lifestyle. And, you know, as you can tell by my hippie hair, I'm getting there. So I've moved to the Northern Beaches. So hence why we're selling up a property in Victoria, because I had the epiphany and said to my husband, I want to move to the Northern Beaches and I want to surf every day and I want to get into the water every day. And I'm achieving it.
How good is that?